Hi and welcome. I'm trying to learn Biographyology. Today, St. Nicholas of Myra. And after we've done it, we're gonna do leg injury prevention training. And if you participate in the leg injury prevention training, then it's better you ask. St. Nicholas of Myra, 4th century. The feast day is the 6th December. Symbols in art are 3 bags of gold, meter, and kreuzer, anchor. Okay, 3 bags of gold, then also a meter, a kreuzer, and an anchor. I don't know what a meter or a kreuzer is. Okay, he is symbolized in art with 3 bags of gold, and an anchor, and something which is a meter, and something which is a kreuzer. He is the patronage of children, sailors, merchants, brides, pawnbrokers, perfumers, of Russia, of the Netherlands, of Greek and Sicily. Paintings by Lorenzo di Credi, The Virgin and Child with Saint Julian and Saint Nicholas of Myra. By Paolo Veronese, The People of Myra welcoming Saint Nicholas. And the profile is the bishop from Asia Minor, that is present-day Turkey, who is identified with Santa Claus. Okay, the profile of Saint Nicholas of Myra in short is that he was the bishop of Turkey, of Asia Minor, and he is identified with being Santa Claus. After the Virgin Mary, this Greek bishop from Asia Minor was the most venerated and colorful saint in all of Christendom. I don't know what venerated means. In England alone, some 400 churches were dedicated to him, and there are more artistic representations of Nicholas than of any other saint. Okay, I don't know if there are today 400 churches, but there were 400 churches in honor to Saint Nicholas of Myra made just in England. And yes, and there are many artistic representations, so many paintings. Yet, as with many of the early saints, so from the 4th century, little is known for sure about his life, although plenty of rich myth turned what is thought to have been a holy man, prepared to suffer persecution for the truth of orthodoxy into a kindly avuncular figure who bestows gifts on children and saves those in peril by miraculous interventions. Okay, I think it's pretty simple what that sentence means. Let's read it again. As with many of the early saints, little is known for sure about his life. Okay. Although plenty of rich myth turned what is thought to have been a holy man prepared to suffer persecution of the truth of orthodoxy into a kindly avuncular figure who bestows gifts on children and saves those in peril by miraculous interventions. So, what is basically known is, not that much, but it was probably more or less was it about that he was a person prepared to suffer of persecution for telling about Orthodox Christianity. And this, what probably was the reality, the historic reality, wasn't turned over to other myths about him being someone who bestows gifts to children and saves them in peril by miraculous interventions. The common image of Nicholas depicted as an old man may be grounded in the tradition that he was one of a few saints to escape martyrdom and to die naturally of old age at his cathedral. Okay, he was certain he was prepared to suffer persecution for speaking about Christianity in the Orthodox Christian Church. But he did not die a martyr. He died naturally when he happened to be older at his cathedral. A fictitious, and that is maybe the reason why he's depicted by some people as an older man, because as many saints of his time or martyrs of the time, he was not murdered or killed. He died naturally, a natural death. A fictitious biography by Methodius in the 9th century created much of the myth of Saint Nicholas that made him so popular in the West. Okay, here is said that someone in the 9th century, so 500 years later after he was living, Saint Nicholas, wrote a story, and he said that story about Saint Nicholas is fictitious, so invented, And that was a big thing in making him the myth of Saint Nicholas. It is much of a myth about him, and made him so popular. When Seljuk Muslims overran Asia Minor and sailors brought his relics to Bari, that is in southern Italy, in 1087, a fanfare inauguration blessed by Pope Urban II sealed his fame. Okay, the expansion of at the time around 1000, there was an expansion of people with Islam faith, and they expanded and also to Turkey. And he was the bishop of Turkey, so his remains were there. That was 600 years after he had died of natural age. And now some people didn't want that these relics were there. Now the Muslim people were. They took them over to Italy, his remains. And there was the Pope Urban II. At the time he was the Pope, and he then blessed these relics when they were now in Bari in Italy. And that basically established him being popular with his myth. It was reputed that from his shrine the soothing fragrance of myrrh wafted over the poor quarters of Bari. Hence his patronage of perfumers. Okay, that from his shrine in Bari, that there was some fragrance going over the poor quarters of the town Bari in Italy. Pilgrims came in droves. I don't know what droves are, but there came many pilgrims from all countries. There was a time in the Middle Ages when his shrine was one of the most visited in all Europe. So many people were going away. Santa Claus. Perhaps the most popular development of his cult is the institution of Santa Claus. So we're going to talk a bit about Santa Claus, and I'm not sure in what direction it might go. Its origins lay in the Netherlands, where the feast of Saint Nicholas or Sint Klaas was celebrated and presents were given to children. Okay, in the Netherlands, there was a feast celebrated about Saint Nicholas, and then in the Netherlands the name was Sint Klaas, and they were celebrating that day in honor to Saint Nicholas Myra with many presents and gifts which were given to children. When migrating Dutch Protestants transported the custom to New Amsterdam, which is New York today, in the 17th century, Nordic folklore about the pagan god Thor was added. Okay, there were Dutch settlers and they were going to New Amsterdam. I think at the time the region of New York was Dutch, and that is today New York. And now people were going there, and they brought this tradition of celebrating St. Nicholas with them. And then also, there was from religions in Scandinavian regions, folklore added about the passion from Thor. So Thor is a belief in some religions. And stories about Thor were now added. A magician riding a chariot drawn by reindeer would visit homes to punish naughty children and reward the good with presents. Okay, and now the people was, I think you get it. So with a chariot, so with a sled, with a chariot, drawn by reindeer, so basically horses, but everything one's getting here. And he would visit children, the good and the bad. A world of legend and confusion. Many of the legends of Saint Nicholas stem back to his first biography. The story of 3 girls whom he saved from prostitution by throwing 3 bags of gold to them through an open window became the basis for Santa Claus Bargesse, as well as the symbols of 3 gold balls adopted by pawnbrokers to signify their patronage. Okay. One story tells that 3 girls were poor and they had to sell their body, but he was not giving them money so that they had money to buy food without having to sell their body. And the other thing I don't understand. A symbol of 3 gold balls adopted by pawnbrokers to signify the patronage, whatever. A painting of this story was misinterpreted. The bags of money were thought to be children's heads, and gave rise to the idea that he restored to life 3 murdered children hidden in a brine tub. Okay, there was a painting, and there he was throwing 3 bags, but no, there was a misinterpretation. He wasn't throwing back to people who were strongly in the need of money, but he was throwing the heads to people and restored the life of that. That is a misinterpretation of a painting. Distressed sailors off the coast of Turkey have also been the lucky beneficiaries of St. Nicholas' powers to save souls. Okay, at the coast of Turkey, there were some sailors also in need, and it is said that they got help by St. Nicholas. Above, an ancient icon of Nicholas of Myra, one of the few saints of the early Christian period to escape martyrdom. Above, a 4th century icon of the Orthodox Church showing scenes from the life of St. Nicholas. That was the biographyology part. If you were here for biographyology, you can go directly to the next part of biographyology, where we're going to do again St. Nicholas of Myra, and then we try to gather the information together and try to make a little presentation about St. Nicholas of Myra from the 4th century. Maybe we're going to exclude all the rest, maybe we're going to just talk about the 4th century St. Nicholas of Myra. I don't know. That means if you were here for biographyology, you can go to the next part. If you stay here and participate in the leg injury prevention training, then it's better die Augen. Gut, stay with standing leg and swing your foot to the side and the front. Upper leg, front and to the side. And foot in front and back. Other foot in front and back. And now, lift one leg up, breathe in, out leg to the side, again in, out into the middle, and down, other leg up, breathe in, out to the side, breathe again in, out into the middle, and down, and down. Leg up, hands out, and over with the hands to one side and with the knee to the other one, and shake. And down, other leg up, out to one side, and up, middle, down. Leg up and press with the knee up to the side. Our knee, press up to the side. Now have a good standing leg. This exercise can go to the knee, turn over to the knee, go slowly down, turn over to the other side, and come up. Upper knee, stay good, turn over to the knee, go down, turn over, and come up again. And now next exercise can go again onto the knee, stand good, and go with the heel, always in 90-minute intervals over an imaginary dial of a clock. And other one. 1:30 and 3, and 10:30 and 9, 7:30 and 6, and 4:30 and 3. Now the next exercise, don't do it if you are pregnant. Heel onto the ground and lift it heel off the ground and place it again onto the ground. Our knee, our leg. And now the horse. Bring the leg in and out. In, out. Our leg in and out. And we're ending the closing exercise. Breathing down. And breathing out. Again in. Out and down. Breathe in and close the legs. And breathe again out. That was the leg injury prevention training. I thank you very much and until next time.